David, I shall share my screen. Just a minute. Yes. Welcome everyone. Thank you for coming here. And I will continue my live presentation of the archives of the Amsterdam Portuguese-Jewish community. To refresh your memory, the Amsterdam Sephardim were divided into 3 communities, which worked together on a number of charities and did the board of the imposter. In the archives, they have the numbers 1, 2, 3 for the communities and 4 for the board of the imposter. In 1630, they started planning for a merger. In 1639, everybody was ready for that, except for some egos who prevented it. Chacham David Pardo of Bet Israel devised a trick. He made 3 copies of the new statutes and gave 1 copy to each of the 3 communities and told them that they had the honor of being the first to sign them. And so they did, and so the merger came about. 3 administrations merged, 1 synagogue was enlarged to hold a larger audience, and the other 2 were either rented out or sold. At the heart of the new administration is the Eskamot A, and I'll take you there in a sec, I hope. Yes. We are here. As I said, 1, 2, 3, the original communities, 4, the board of the imposter, which was really a precursor of the Talmud Torah, the new community. And at the heart of the archives is Eskamot A, followed by Eskamot B and Eskamot C. And the Eskamot, or decisions, have it all. They have statutes and rules, nominations of board members and of chachams, chazans, rubies, decisions about taxes, about the poor, about the production and distribution of kosher meat. They have gifts, bequests, last wills, lists of possessions of the synagogue, decisions about real estate, decisions about individual members, including gerems or bans. And they tell us about international relations, including glimpses of colonial undertakings, support for Eretz Israel, and they have decisions about the new synagogue to be opened in 1675. At the beginning of such of this Eskamot, there is, as in many registers of the Portuguese community, an index. It's chronological, so it's more of a content than an alphabetical index. And you can use this to go faster through such a large book, because large it is. It has 849 pages and is chock full of information, densely written. So I'm amazed that someone managed to make a transcription of the complete book. His name is Maxim Kerkhoff. The book is still for sale in Lisbon and Portugal at the Centro Alberto Benveniste. Well, if you have Amsterdam ancestors, you will be sure that you will find some ancestor in that register. The statutes of 1639 were the first decision that was taken. And of course, it has a lot of decisions, rules, sorry, and a lot of articles, and it states first of all that members of the community could only be those Jews with an Iberian background. And it further established that the Mahamat made the rules and that no one could object to them. So the people who signed this decision, these statutes, really signed over their power to take decisions over to the Mahamat. And here, over a few pages, there are 320 or something signatures, which amounts to about just everyone who was a member. What you don't find among these people are the poor. They were not members. They were given money by the synagogue to survive, and they were not considered as eligible for taking decisions like signing a statute. A few years later, the escamot were already changed. And I'm going to page 103. Okay. And here again, you find several pages with signatures. I'll enlarge this one. And the number of members now is 406. So in a few years' time, the community grew considerably. And this goes on for a few pages. If you want to see their names, go to the Sephardic Diaspora Facebook group. I made a transcription, and with a little search, you may be able to find it there. Otherwise, I will give it a bump to make it top of the list again. On this page, we see a familiar name, I thought. They are by now all familiar to me, but here is Michael de Espinosa. He was the father of the famous philosopher whom we'll meet later on. One of the things the community did from the very beginning, from 1616, when the first documents are available, is support Eretz Israel, or Terra Santa as they called it in Portuguese. And this is really nice, because they did it in a special way. They didn't give a lump sum of money to the chachams there or the community there to dole it out to the poor. They made a list of names of people in Jerusalem who received money from Amsterdam. Over a period of 140 years, there are 120 of such lists. And you can find, well, almost a complete population of Jerusalem in the archives of the Portuguese-Jewish community in Amsterdam, which to me is amazing. And it's especially helpful because I know of no other source for the names of people living then in Jerusalem. And as you can see, there are a lot of Portuguese names, Spanish names, which shows that the community in Jerusalem was mostly composed of Sephardim. There were a few Ashkenazim, but there were very few. And Ashkenazi immigration in Jerusalem only started in the 1700s. But I find no lists of those. And you may find in these lists with some of the names where they came from, like de Sale, he's from Morocco, and de Trancosa from Portugal. Another thing you may find helpful if you're doing genealogy is that people gave gifts during their life to the synagogue or in their last will. And here we see another familiar name, Ephraim Bueno, who was a doctor. It says so before his name, D-O-R, Douter Ephraim Bueno. He had just died a year before, and he left 400 guilders to the synagogue. And in the resolution itself, it says that the money was transferred to the community by Dr. Jacob Moreno as guardian of his son, Joseph Moreno Bueno. And this Joseph is the inheritor of Ephraim. And the money is given on the condition that prayers will be said for Ephraim himself, of course, but also for his father, Joseph Bueno, his mother, Doña Sara Buena, and for Ephraim's wife, Judith Buena, whose name is here. And it also mentions the name of the notary who made the last will, which is here, Pedro Padhuizen, Notario Publico, and the date, 2 November 1665. And that last will tell you how Joseph Bueno is, Joseph Moreno Bueno is related to Ephraim Bueno, who had no children of his own. Ephraim Bueno is also famous for being painted by Rembrandt, and this is his portrait. It's allegedly by Rembrandt, so we cannot be sure, but it sure has a friendly face, a learned person. He was also in the book trade. In the last will, it says that there were still books laying in the attic, which had not been sold. Shulchan Aruch. The relation between him and Jacob Moreno is explained by the marriage ban of Jacob Moreno, which are found in the indexes of the Amsterdam City Archives. I filled in the name Moreno with a tilde, because that gives you more results. It gives you fuzzy results for that name, and Jacob. And then I pushed enter and I got a number of results, Moren, etc. But also this, clicking on the link, gives you more details. The date of the marriage is here, the marriage ban, I should say, 8 May 1646. The name of the groom and the name of his bride, and an image. You can enlarge it by clicking on it or using your cursor, and you can also download it here. And Jacob Moreno from Amsterdam, no, not from Amsterdam, from Jean de Lutz in France, 32 years old. He has parents in Hamburg, and he marries Hester Morena. And this is a bit strange because the last name of his wife is not Morena, but it must have been Bueno. Sorry, technical problem. Hester Morena is assisted with her brother, Ephraim Bueno. So that's the family relation. Ephraim Bueno has a sister and she is married to Dr. Jacob Moreno. So we have a real family of doctors here. First, there's Dr. Joseph Bueno, the father of Dr. Ephraim Bueno, and his brother-in-law is also a doctor-in-law. And so you can see that a simple gift of foreign guilders to the synagogue gives you a lot of genealogical information. And the names of those gifts are codes or legados, but mostly they use the term codes, literally gift. And you may find them in the index that precedes this register. There's more genealogical information in these registers, and we go now to this. It's a bit hard to read, but here it says a sorte do legado de Joseph Soares que Deus tem. This is the lottery from the legacy of Joseph Soares, who is dead and who is held by God. So Joseph Soares left money to the synagogue, and this lottery is in the year 1672. But Joseph had died in 1651 in Izmir. He was a successful merchant and he left money in 1651 in his last will to the Jewish community in Amsterdam with the provision that they should take care of his capital and they should divide it among his descendants in the form of dowries. So, and the further provision was that it was only to be given to female descendants of Joseph Soares or his wife, or inheritors of them, because the couple itself had no children. So the names of the ones who took part in this lottery are here. For instance, Esther Nunes, who is Orphan Irma de David Nunes da Fonseca. She is an orphan girl of the sister of David Nunes da Fonseca. And there is also Rachel, the daughter of David Nunes da Fonseca. And Sarah, the orphan of Jacob da Fonseca, and the list goes on. And these people are all related to Joseph Soares in some way or another. There's a fat file on this estate, which has all the claims of the relatives of Joseph Soares and his wife. And it's a quite complicated affair, not in the least, but because some people were not really related to Joseph Soares, but pretended to be. And as you can see, this lottery was done in 1672. The last will was from 1651, and in that year Joseph Soares died. So it took 31 years to sort out all the legal difficulties. And this is not the only difficult legacy left to the Portuguese-Jewish community. And there were a lot of lawyers who made quite some money from all the legal stuff involved. This lottery was continued in later years, and you may find them in Esnoga A, B, C, and later on in other registers. Then we go to the building of the new synagogue. For that, a lot of money was required, and there were some collections among the members and friends of the synagogue. And here is such a page. The amounts are all in guilders, and you can pick out the rich ones immediately. They give like 250 guilders, 200 guilders, 100 guilders. In this column, we meet some interesting people at the very end. Here's Uri Levy. He is a descendant of the first rabbi of the Portuguese community in Amsterdam. I think it was a son. And he himself was in the book printing business, and he was still a member of the Portuguese-Jewish community. And a generation later, they were asked to leave the community because they were really Ashkenazim, and the community only tolerated Sephardic members or members who had been member for a long time, like the Levies, but then on the condition that they would not marry Ashkenazic wives, and this one did. There's another name that I find very interesting, and that's Selomo Faya, mulatto. And he gave 6 guilders and 6 stivers towards the building of the synagogue. The whole list has some 600 names, and to my mind, everyone who's a member of the community or even the poor gave. And I think this is the complete membership and all the poor of the community in 1674. The synagogue was opened in 1675. In the last column, there's the names of the women. So also the women, often widows, gave towards building the new synagogue, and some gave quite big amounts, like Rachel, Curiel, and Sans. But there were others who gave 5 guilders, or 3 guilders, 6 guilders, 1 guilder. And there's one other such list. It's less long and it's earlier, but it's nice to see that everyone contributed towards building the synagogue. There are a few more pages of this, and the one who gave the largest amount of money was, I believe, Jacob de Pinto, who gave something like 500 guilders. I can't find them that fast. 300 guilders from the Belmontes. The Portuguese community consisted of Iberian Jews from Spain and Portugal and their descendants, who in the meantime have been born in Amsterdam. These Portuguese and Spanish Jews were educated people. They, a lot of them had studied at universities, others were doctors, international merchants, etc., etc. And some of them had a mind of their own and weren't really prepared to take everything that the community told them for granted. They had their own ideas about philosophy, theology, customs, etc. And the most famous example is Baruch de Spinoza. And this is the famous ban against Baruch Spinoza. He was accused of promoting horrendas heresias, so terrible heresies, and of doing monstrous deeds, enormous obras. The complete Marmat and the complete Bedin had decided that he was to be banned from this from the synagogue. To me, there's one thing that makes this a strange decision, because it's not signed. And normally all the decisions of in this book are all signed by the complete Mahamat, consisting of 6 parnasim and 1 gabbai. And this text has, well, inspired many people in many discussions, and it has led to a lot of books and theories, endless debate. And a few years ago, there was a debate in Amsterdam organized by Ronnie Palash, who discussed the ban. She wanted it to be lifted, but the illustrious company that she had assembled to discuss it decided that, well, this has been done and we can't change it anymore. And the Chacham of the community argued that the only one who could have lifted the ban had been Spinoza himself. If he had repented within 2 weeks, he would have been able to return to the community. But he would not have been permitted to develop his theological thoughts anymore. Spinoza himself seems not to have had a wish to return to the community. So I think it's best left at that. But a few months ago, a professor who studies Spinoza, Yitzhak Melamed, professor in philosophy, he came to Amsterdam, asked for permission to do research about Spinoza, and he was flatly told by the Chacham of that moment that he couldn't. And this shows that Spinoza is still being discussed. The matter was solved. Professor Yitzhak Melamed will be coming to Amsterdam this month, and he will do his research as planned. Each year, and sometimes more than once in a year, new members were admitted to the community. These admittances were done by the Mahamat, who signed such a list of newly admitted. And you could become a member if you got to be 25 years of age, then you were an adult. If you got married, then you also became an adult, or if your father had died and you were asked to step in his footsteps and pay the finta, as it is called. So these are all first-time finta payers. Here we found their names: Abraham Castiel, Gallego, Lebroso, Vasquez, Valverde, etc., etc. And as you see, this list is alphabetical. And this is the preferred way of index for the Portuguese. They made their alphabets using the given name and not the last name, which makes life more difficult for us. We'll go a few pages further. Now, you were assessed for fintas on the basis of your wealth, and we don't know how that worked, how precisely that worked. But over the years, things could change. So every 3 years, or theoretically every 3 years, the finta was reassessed. And there was made a new list of everyone. And this happened some 20 times in 1.5 centuries. So they did not stick to the 3-year period, which is, well, unlucky for us, for we would have more names to research. As you see, this list is also alphabetically. Abandana de Brito, Abandana de Brito, Abrabano, Baruch Enriquez, etc., etc. But these amounts of money are the guilders that they were supposed to pay. And what they really did pay, you find elsewhere in the archives, not in the Esnoga, but in the so-called journalen, which are a kind of financial registers. And you will find these, I'll open up a new register. This is a financial register. Its inventory number is 172, and every year you will find 1 or 2 lists of names of members of the community and the amount that they paid in finta, which is the middle column, promesas, that's what they promised to pay as a voluntary gift, and impuesta, it says here, imposta, and I talked about the imposta last time, 2 weeks ago, and that's a tax on international trade of 1 promille, so 1/10 of 1/100 of the business deals that you made in a year. You see here Maya Finta, and this is from the first half of the year. And there must be another list with the Finta of the second half of that year. And if we go down the list, we see here again Abraham Castiel, who had been admitted the year before in 1675 as a new member. And you see that he pays 1 guilder 14 stuvers as a promesa, and 3.5 guilders as Vinta. So the Vinta for the whole year was 7 guilders. I find this page very interesting, if only for this reason. Here we have a dead insect captured for ages in this register. The poor fellow. So if we go back to the Eskamot, each year new members were admitted, but each year also Portuguese and Spanish Jews were admitted to the Tzedakah, that is to say, they received poor relief. And there are lists of them, only to begin later, in Eskamot B. And I hope this will work as fast as the last time. Yeah. This is Eskamot B, page 33, and here you find a list of pessoas que este ano admitizaram os senhores do Mahamat na Tzedakah, who were admitted to the Tzedakah on Rosh Chodesh, the first of the month or the year. And here you find their names. And there are a lot of widows, women among them. And here we have Netta de Lombroso, the granddaughter of Lombroso. And you can see that these are also Portuguese and Spanish names, but there's Rachel de Praga. And I wonder about her, and where she came from. So you will find the actual amounts that they got paid also in the journalen, also in the registers, financial registers, and I'll show you one such list. Yes. Here we have such a list of the poor of the nations who were officially admitted to the Tzedakah, and the Amsterdam community named them pobres da terra. That's to say, the poor of our nation. Besides that, you had the pobres de fora, the poor from outside. I guess I'm spatial with the continuum thing. And here you have their names, the amount that they paid, that they got paid at Pesach, Shavuot, Sukkot, Purim. So 4 times a year they received money from the synagogue. Apart from that, they also received poor relief in the form of matzos and peat. Like the London community got coal and distributed coal to the poor. The Amsterdam community distributed peat to their own poor. So, the Eskamot, A, B, and C have decisions about who they admitted as members and who they admitted to poor relief. And the actual payments you will find in the financial registers, beginning with the number 172. I will now tell something about the sources that most people use, which are birth records, circumcision records, marriage records, and burial records. First, the birth records, they are also contained by the Portuguese-Jewish archives themselves. I will show you here. It's further on in the archives. What I just showed you about the Eskimot is here, stukken van algemene aard, resoluties enzovoort. And Eskimot A is in here. But then there are stukken van bijzonder aard, documents of a special nature. And these are divided into 9 categories. And one of them is the administration of the members. And this is further divided in birth, circumcision, marriage, and death. Yeah. It begins in 1736. And it's divided in machos, femias, or boys and girls. And here immediately you see one of the problems of this birth register. Often it doesn't say the given name of the newly born, and then you have to guess from other sources if this was an Aaron, an Abraham, a David, or something else altogether. The only thing you know is I'm talking nonsense here. Here's one, that's a blank one. 7 Hesron, 12 October, a son to Eli Azubi is born. We don't know his first name, and you have to guess it from other sources. And there are quite a lot of them. And what you know is if it's a girl or a boy. There's an index to this, and that's you can find here. You can refine here for database dopen or baptism. That's an unfortunate name. And I've talked to the city archives about it, but it seems to be a problem at this level to change that name. Since they are going to change their website, it might be that they will change it. We'll see. You fill in a name here, Cohen, then you get all the Cohens born in Amsterdam. And these are the undated ones. There are 11 pages with 25 names. So there are a lot of Cohens. Here you can go to the next page, but also here above. And here start the, here you can click on the link, which is the name. And here you go to the register itself. But this is a different register. It says here, geboorteregister der Hollandse Portugees-Israëlitische gemeente te Amsterdam. And what we saw just here, no, here. See, Registro dos Nascimentos. And this is the original register. And what you see here is a copy of that. In 1811, all the different denominations, religions were asked by the civil authorities to turn over their birth, baptism, marriage, and other records to civil authorities. They needed them to set up the civil administration ordered by Napoleon, and they needed to be able to check new entries into their birth, marriage, and death records. But the Portuguese didn't turn over their original. They made a copy and gave that to the Amsterdam community. And this register from the Amsterdam municipality runs from 1736, the beginning year, to 1811. And this one, from the Portuguese community itself, runs to 1829. So the other one has been indexed, and this one has not been indexed. That's fine for the first years until 1811, but after that, you can find registers of birth of boys and girls of the Portuguese-Jewish community in here. And if you need a Portuguese passport, you might be willing to go through these to find an original birth record from the Portuguese community. So you have to do it chronologically, or you can go here. Here is a register, which is an index. And in this register, they have indexed all the births from 1736 to 1829, and maybe even later, on last name of the newly born, Alitrino. And if you had a double name, like Pereira Abbas, you need to search for Abbas. And you have put everyone with a last name that began with an A in this register, one by one. And chronologically, if it is someone with the letter A. And if you go to another page, you will find the Da Costas under the K, not the C, but the K. Catan, Coronel, Cohen. So in this way you can search faster and look back at the original register. This is not very well known, but it gives you extra information and gives you surety that these people were still a member of the community at that time. And then, if that is not enough, there's also a register on given name. Here are all the Abrahams. And all the Abrahams are given chronologically. So there are a lot of possibilities to search in these archives by searching on in these indexes. And here's a very strange register. In this register, only the firstborn of a family are registered. And I put the question on the Sephardic diaspora, asking how this is possible and what they could do with this, but no one seems to know, especially because it's not only firstborn sons, but also firstborn daughters. Next, we come to besnijdenis or circumcision. And this is a copy of circumcision books of several mohels. And this covers the period 1693 to 1725. Then there's another book with circumcisions by diverse mohels running from 1705 to 1740. So the birth registers start in 1736, and here you can go back a few dozen years. And this is also not well known because there's no index online. Luckily, the Portuguese Jews also made an index to these two circumcision registers, which I just showed now. And this is the index on given name, and it has a few, well, 1,300 names in all, I believe. They are numbered. And here are gaps because there are also lists of Davids and Josephs and etc., etc. And they are in between. So there's another list systematically, which you'll find at the back of this book, which is here. And the numbers you find in the alphabetical register, you find here again, but now with some extra information like date and the name of the mohel. These people were all circumcised by Jacob de Moza Abrabano. So this is an index, 379 to 378 and 377. So you have to note the date, the name of the mohel, go back to the original circumcision registers, and there you will find the original record of the circumcision. It's a lot of steps. Alternatively, you can go through these lists yourself. I must say that I don't know if these registers are complete, but in a period of some 40 years, there are 1,300 names. And I think that if you go through them, that you might find your ancestors had one or two sons circumcised, and you might find further details. Of course, there are no girls here. Next, we go to the ketubot. There's also a later circumcision register, which runs from 1768 to later. But this is double with the birth registers. So it might give you some extra information, but not much. Then we go to the ketubot. And it's good to say that there are two series of ketubot. There are the regular ketubot, which are here. I will open that up in a minute. And there are registers with special ketubot. For some reason, the Portuguese Jews thought that some marriages were somewhat less worthy of registration than others. And the difference is, for example, that in these special ketubot, you find no signatures. There's an index to this, and you can find it on the website of the Nederlandse Kring voor Joodse Genealogie. I don't have a link ready, but I can put one on the Patreon page. What you see here is not the name of the groom, it's solely the witnesses, the witness from the community and the one who performed the service of the marriage. So the original ketubot are here. They start in 1673 and they went to 1877. There's an index to this, and you can find that on the website of dutchjewelry.org. Portuguese marriages, it is called, and you cannot search directly, but if you click on a letter of the alphabet, a list will open up and you will find everyone with last name Abendana, and etc., etc. Clicking on it gives you more information. The date and the year in the common era, which is almost always wrong, I should say. But you find the name of the father and the name of the father of the bride. And this is a very useful index, but what you don't see is an inventory number or a link to this. Where were we? To this. And that makes life very difficult, because if you don't read Hebrew like I do, like I don't do, there are many grooms who sign in Hebrew, and you are hard pressed to find the right ketubah. And also these ketubot may not always be in the right chronological order. Next thing is, here we have one where the groom signs in Latin letters, and this is the rabbi and this is the witness for the community. In the beginning it says something about the groom and his father, if he is alive or dead, or yes, it will give titles of the father, which can tell you how old he is, if he had a special status within the community. It will give the name of the bride and her father, and it will give marriage conditions. But also important, it may give you the name of a notary, and often also the date of a prenuptial agreement made by this couple before a notary. And that will give you extra information that is not held within this ketubah. And also, if there is a prenuptial agreement, then that's the one that holds the most legal power. It goes above the ketubah. So it's really important that you find a ketubah, if there is one, of course, and that you find someone who can read it or learn Hebrew. For these Ketubot give you a lot more information than the index that is on Dutch Jewry. And my wish for the future is that someone will make such an index like on Dutch Jewry with a link to the actual Ketubah. And it's only 3,000 Ketubot that you have to index. So, well, it will take you a few years. I'll show you one Ketubot. It's from Eliza Lindo. He signs his name also with the date 1706. And he tells us here that his father is alive and that he wishes to marry with Rachel Pereira. I looked up the marriage ban, which is another source for marriages in Amsterdam, of this Eliza Lindo, and they did find him as Alexander Lindo, which is another name, let's say the Christian name, Christian translation for Eliza. And the marriage ban says that his father is dead, parents dead. And the explanation for that is very simple. The father lived in London. If the son had to ask his father for permission, he had the right to London, locate his father, and that would cost him a few weeks and money. And so he just decided to tell the civil authorities that his father was dead. But he couldn't do that in the Portuguese-Jewish community because there were strong ties between those communities. And if he lied to the Portuguese-Jewish community, it would have come out. And that's another reason why these Ketubot might be of importance. Let's go to burials. You can also find the burial, well, not records, burial cards on the website of dutchjewry.org, and most of you will know them, will have used them. And these are all the burials of people with last name that start with an A. To the left, you can click on a link. If it says pick, then there's a picture as well. Clicking on it opens it up. You can enlarge it a bit. And download it or copy it. And this is the burial card, which gives you detail. Not many here. And you can enlarge it, and it has the Hebrew date, the Common Era date, and it tells you where someone is buried, but not very clear here. It has been dug up in May 1976, and the photograph that you saw has been made back then. So it might be that it's now covered up again, because many stones in Amsterdam are below ground level.
Oh, Ton, we're not seeing the pop-ups because we're just seeing your screen, but that's fine. Can I also just say that we're
over time? I know.
No. This is absolutely fascinating. Please carry on. But perhaps after the burials, we should stop.
Yeah. Okay. I was. Let's go here. These were I have to close this down and go to administratie van de lidmaten, administration of the members, overlijden, death. There are several registers and most of them begin very late. And they are quite confusing, I must say. I mostly rely on Bet Chaim, on the burial cards on Uri.org. But if there's a problem, I need to go in here. And there are problems with the burial cards of Dutch Uri, because the people who made them are also human and they made mistakes. And sometimes they made the mistake of just guessing, which is the worst case. And sometimes they are honest mistakes, but mistakes there are, and they are not 100% reliable. So when I suspect there's a problem, I go here. But I don't only go here, because here you find death records. And here, beheer van de begraafplaats, the care for the cemetery. You also find registers of burials. So this is another reason for confusion. And there's a lot of work to do here. On top of that, this is annoying to me. It's the introduction to the archives, and the archives are way below, and you have to scroll all the way down to here. This Livro de Bet Chaim is also a burial register. And I'm trying to find page with by luck, a lot of empty pages. Okay, here there are also burials, but these are the early ones of the first period. And the burial records you saw under death start in 1680. And this one stops in 1639. And there's another one that is also very early, and that covers the period 1640 to 1648. So we have a gap in burial registers, documents from 1648 to 1680. And what we have in that period are the graves. And what we also have are the Livro Longos, in which the poor are mentioned. And there you might find burials of the poor, because the poor were buried at expense of the community. They paid for a boat and a coffin. A boat for transport to Bet Chaim, which happened mostly over water, over the Amsterdam River, and the coffin to be buried in. So that helps a bit, but still this is, there must have been registers, but they got lost. And these early ones have both been published, one in book form and the other is downloadable through the archives of the Amsterdam website. And I think I can leave it at that and maybe come back another time.
Thank you. That was really, really excellent. And there's a lot of stuff. There's so much there. I think that every time you sort of dig in, I find stuff I didn't know before. A comment on YouTube, Gazillion Peter says that in Portugal they still use alphabetical ordering by first name. I seem to remember they do the same in Brazil as well. We had a question quite early from Bob, who was asking at the beginning of the talk. You were talking about a lottery. Can you just explain it? Is that the same meaning as we use today?
Yes, it was called charity, but it was done in the form of a lottery. DOTA worked the same, and DOTA is the big charity of the Portuguese-Jewish community, and I gave a talk about that one too in the past. So there you might find the answers. DOTA was a charity, it had members, they brought together the capital, and the capital was invested, and the return of investment was put available to pay for one or more dowries per year. The lottery took place on Purim. It still happens to the very day, and in a few days' time it will happen again. And only one or two or three and sometimes four brides-to-be could win a dowry out of sometimes 150 applicants. So it was a lottery.
Okay, thank you. Have you any idea what they pay today if you win?
I believe 5,000 guilders.
What's that in euros?
Euros, sorry. 5,000 euros, something like that.
Okay.
And you can still become a member of that game, of DOTA, sorry. And it still functions the way it did. It used to be a very international affair because everyone from all over the Sephardic world could become a member, and every bride to be from all over the Sephardic world, even those who still lived in Spain or Portugal, could apply for a dowry. But they could, if they won, they could only get the money if they came out and married a Jewish Sephardic man. And it was international, and well, Amsterdam lost many international contacts over the year, and after the World War II especially, there were not so many contacts. But they are picking up that piece again. One of the dowries that they dole out goes to an orphan boy or girl. It used to be only girls, but now it's also boys, to an orphan boy or girl in Israel.
Okay, thank you. Bruce and Anna are both waiting for you to write your book, which would be, me too, it would be very, very helpful. On YouTube, Andre asks, from all the sets of records in Amsterdam, what's the one that would include places of birth in Portugal, at least down to
yes, that's
especially post 1700.
That's marriage bands.
Yeah. Those are the civil marriage bands.
The civil marriage bands, yes.
Yeah.
And you find them in the indexen. This is the starting point of the Amsterdam archives. Yeah. You can click here, you go to inventories, like the inventory of the archives of the Portuguese-Jewish community. Or you can go to indexes, and indexes are indexes to parts of the archives. Yeah. For example, you may find here, if you click on Uitgebreid zoeken, which is advanced search, You can fill in a name. Let's say Mendoza. And if you're not sure of the spelling, you can add the tilde. And here you can refine registration type. Here it says ondertrouwregister, and in English that is marriage bands. You click it, and you will find only results in those marriage bands.
Yeah.
And then you click on search, and you find all the Mendozas. Yeah. Genealogy is chronological business, so I saw them for date. Let's pick this one, Samson de Castro Mendoza. The index only tells you that it's a marriage ban, ondertrouw, the date, and the name of groom and bride, but the marriage ban itself, and there are six of them on one page, so you have to search a bit for it. And one easy way of doing that is skipping all the non-signed marriage bans, because Portuguese-Jewish knew how to read and write. Samson de Castro Mendoza from Valladolid. So this gives you the place of his birth or the place where he came from. And below you see that he married Hannah Israel Nunes from AM, which is short for Amsterdam, 25 years old, assisted with her father Aaron Israel Nunes. And her parents are dead, his parents, I mean, and he is assisted with his uncle, David de Castro Mendoza. So this is
my ancestor.
Is that your ancestor?
Yeah, yeah. I actually on this one, I haven't looked at it in so long that what I need to do is using Michael Wass's technique, take this signature, because this character is one of a couple of people. He may be the same person as Miguel de Mendonça Valladolid, who appears in the Inquisition archives, and Michael Wass has sort of pioneered a technique basically where we just put the signatures from both the Jewish record and the Inquisition record side by side to see if we can
yes, but you will see
the same
another given name, of course.
Yeah,
but the signatures will be identical if it's
yeah. Can I so sorry, Bernard, because if I can just ask another question following on from what Andre was asking, because it flows from that. On the Finta reassessments, you said there were only 20 over 150 years.
Yes.
Do you have you anywhere published a list of when these were? I mean, staying with Andre's question, around sort of 1700, which is obviously when a lot of people were first appearing in Amsterdam. Were there any around that period?
The oldest one is from 1675.
Yeah.
But I showed you also those lists of signees of the statues of the community.
Yeah.
And 2 weeks ago, I showed the signatures from 1660. So you can use those lists also as a way of seeing when someone turns up. But the best place to do that is in the journalen. See when someone started to pay, and also in the Escamot, where everyone is mentioned that for the first time paid Finta.
Okay, thank you. Bernard, I'm sorry, you've had your hand up for a long time.
That's okay. No, I mean, it's so fascinating. For First of all, thanks again, Ton. First of all, for the massive amount of information. And second, for the enormous amount of work that you've put into it and for explaining it to us. I've got four questions, but the first one is really trivial. And it is, when did they stop dividing the guilder into stivers and change to cents? And did that affect the bookkeeping?
That was when the modern Dutch monarchy was established, and that was in 1815. Then they changed from, they kept the guilders, but from then on, the guilders divided into 20 stivers, and the stivers. And the guilder was also divided into 100 cents. Before that, the stivers were divided into 12 pennies or cents.
Thank you. It's two questions. One about burials. We had a session at the Jewish Genealogy Society a couple of weeks ago, and they talked about all three cemeteries. And the speaker said that the Zebur cemetery was also for very poor Jews who weren't able to be buried anywhere else. Did any of the Sephardim end up there, and are there records of them, if they did?
I don't know.
Fair enough. Second one,
someone wrote a book, Bart Wallet, wrote a book about the Zebur cemetery, and we will have him as a speaker in the future.
Okay.
And maybe you can put your question to him.
Thank you. And related to that, were there, or was there or were there more than one Jewish hospitals? And if so, are there records for them?
There was a Jewish hospital, and there are no records of them.
Okay. And the last one, you started off talking about the payments to Terra Santa and the fantastic record that it gives of the Jews who received money from Amsterdam. What was the basis of the community there? Were these people who had emigrated from the Netherlands, from Iberia, people who were already there? Could you just say a little bit about that?
I think that they were from everywhere. These lists have only a few places of origin, and they are from the Greek islands, from Portugal, from Spain, from Morocco, from Amsterdam, from Hamburg, from the Balkan. And if we can translate that to the list as a whole, and then it's from all over.
Okay.
And you can't really subtract that information from them to draw maps with migration movements, because there are too little. There's too little of that.
Okay. Thank you very much. Really appreciated.
Thank you. Ainsley asked if there was any reason the Germans didn't destroy these records.
Well, the Germans captured those records and slapped them to Germany and put them into a factory somewhere. And after the war, they were miraculously found again. We don't know if they were plundered or that something is missing through there, but all the important stuff is there, like the Eskimos. So I have a feeling that they returned intact from Germany, and that information that is missing, registers that are missing, that has been done throughout the ages when they needed room for new registers. They threw some old paper away.
Thank you. We've already been an hour and a half. I don't know if it's impertinent to ask this question at this point, I was wondering if it would be possible to show us how you would search in the Escamot for a particular surname. Is that going to take too long? Perhaps we should leave that for next session.
Like I said, Maxim Kerkhoff published a book.
Yeah.
Together, they are less fat than the original Escamot, which are twice as thick as these books. And each of these books has an index in the back.
Okay, that's cheating.
Of every name that there is. I'm cheating, yes. I used to go through these indexes in front, but he also transcribed the indexes, and they are much better readable than the Escamot themselves. But
how do you spell Kerkhoff? I'll look in the British Library.
Kerkhof, Maxim, and his book is called Livro dos Acordos.
Yeah.
And there's part 1 and part 2, and you can order them really cheap. Is the Edição Cátedra de Estudos Sepharditas Alberto Benveniste.
Okay.
And they charge you 30 euros for each part, 60 in all.
Okay, that's a bargain. Shall we? We've already got an hour and a half. It seems much faster. Shall we call it a
Yes.
day at this point?
Okay.
And
I only scratched the surface here.
Well, I'm sure we will return to this quite soon, and thank you, because it really was an excellent and very helpful talk. Anna's asking if you can put the name of the book and perhaps the publisher on the Sephardic diaspora page.
Yeah, we'll do that. I have done so in the past, so I'll bump it.
Thank you. Next week, we are welcoming Yehonatan Elazar de Mota to talk about Western Sephardic tradition. We obviously, within Sephardic genealogy, we try to stay quite close to the community, and it's valuable for the genealogy to understand that. And
Okay.
we
are also looking for a speaker in 2 weeks' time.
I actually, yes, it is worth saying that if anybody has done a case study on a particular family, that's always interesting, and especially if you can show us how you've done the research. It is just left to me to thank our guest speaker for this week, Tom Tielen. And to look forward to inviting him back at some future date soon. To thank our patrons very much. We really couldn't do this without you at all. To thank our visitors on YouTube. If you're on YouTube and you want to become a patron, please go to the Patreon.com website and search for Sephardi, and we would very much welcome your support. Just to put out there that we are looking for sponsors for some quite large projects. So if anybody is interested in supporting a quite significant project, please get in touch with us. And thank you very much to everyone, and we look forward to seeing you on Sephardic World next week.